All right, let's set the scene. Imagine you're running a 100-year-old titan of industry, a company that, literally put the world on wheels. But the world is changing, and it's changing faster than ever. Your entire business model is being threatened by new tech and a whole new generation that just sees things differently. So what do? Well, if you're Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, you make a giant's gambit. Today, we're going to dig into how GM placed this massive bet on the future of driving. You know this quote from Mary Barra? This is really the key to the whole story. It's basically a declaration of war against doing things the old way. For a company as huge as General Motors, the easiest path is always to just protect what you've already built. But Barra is saying, no, we're going to be the ones to make our own model obsolete before somebody else does it for us. Okay, so to really get how radical this move was, you have to understand that this was not some desperate Hail Mary from a company that was failing. Actually, it was the complete opposite. This was a giant that had gotten a second chance. I mean, you gotta remember, just a few years after its 2009 bankruptcy and that huge government bailout, GM it was thriving. Under Barra, who took the CEO job in 2014, the company looked like a picture of health. They were selling nearly 10 million cars a year. By every single traditional metric, they were on top of the world, totally winning the game they knew how to play. But here's the thing. The rules of that game were being completely rewritten. While GM was busy perfecting its awesome manufacturing and sales machine, these massive shifts were happening right under their noses, threatening the very foundation of their business. And this chart right here, it just brilliantly shows one of those shifts. Just look at that blue line for North America. I mean, it's practically a vertical line. The number of people signing up for car-sharing services was just skyrocketing. We're talking from around 100,000 members in 2006 to over 1.6 million by 2014. This wasn't some niche trend anymore. This was a fundamental change in how people thought about cars. $68 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. In 2016, that was the valuation of Uber, a tech company that had only been around for a few years, a company that owned almost no cars, was valued higher than General Motors. That was the wake-up call. The auto industry suddenly realized the real threat wasn't another car company, it was a totally different kind of business. And what was fueling all this? It really all comes down to this one core idea, the sharing economy. See, GM's entire world was built on selling you a product that you would own. The sharing economy totally flipped that script. It's all about access over ownership, and it was all powered by that little computer in everyone's pocket, the smartphone. So who was driving this change? A whole new generation. You had millennials and younger folks moving to cities where owning a car is a huge pain and super expensive. They cared more about experiences than about owning stuff. And for them, a car's internet connection was more important than its engine. So that classic rite of passage, getting your driver's license, that was becoming way less important. GM's next generation of customers was literally slipping away. So Mary Barra and her team, they saw this new reality taking shape. They realized they couldn't just sit on the sidelines and watch it happen. It was time to make a big strategic move. It was time to place a $500 million bet. And there it is, the pivotal moment. GM drops $500 million on Lyft, which was Uber's smaller but still fast-growing rival. Now, this wasn't just about making money on an investment. No, this was a strategic play to buy a seat at the table of the future, to learn about a brand new kind of customer, and to hopefully kickstart its own transformation from the inside. And to really get why Lyft was so valuable, you have to understand this incredibly powerful concept, network effects. It's the secret sauce of companies like this. Think about it. More drivers on Lyft means shorter wait times for riders. Shorter wait times attract more riders. More riders means more business for drivers, which of course attracts even more drivers. It's this amazing virtuous cycle that just builds on itself and becomes incredibly hard for anyone else to compete with. And this quote from GM's then president, Dan Ammann, this is where they pull back the curtain on the even bigger long-term strategy. The investment wasn't just about ride-sharing today. It was the on-ramp to the next huge revolution, autonomous vehicles. I mean, why would you build a self-driving car and then have to figure out how to sell it when you could just plug it into a network that already has millions of customers waiting for a ride? Now, making the investment, that was the easy part. The really hard part was internal. How on earth do you get a massive 100-year-old manufacturing giant to start thinking and acting like a nimble, fast-moving Silicon Valley startup? This slide just lays out the huge cultural gap GM had to cross. The old GM mindset was all about the product, the hardware, the thing you sell, with development cycles that took years. This new venture thinking they needed, it was all about service, software, access instead of ownership, and running quick, small experiments. It was a complete rewiring of the company's DNA. This wasn't GM's first time at the innovation rodeo. Their history was a real mixed bag of incredible vision and some really costly mistakes. They had massive home runs, like the connected car service OnStar, which was decades ahead of its time. But they also had huge failures, like the Saturn brand, which lost billions. This history just proved that even with the best intentions, success was absolutely not guaranteed.
And while this is such a crucial insight from the guy who actually ran OnStar, a big company is like an immune system. It's designed to find anything that looks different and kill it. A truly disruptive idea like this Lyft partnership could have easily been smothered by the main business, unless the CEO, in this case Mary Barra, personally stepped in to protect it and give it room to grow.
So, GM didn't make this move in a vacuum. Not at all. This was a frantic, high-stakes race, and pretty much every major car maker was scrambling to figure out their path to the future. GM's biggest rival, Ford, they weren't just sitting on their hands. They launched their own company, Ford Smart Mobility, sending a clear signal that they were also getting serious about investing in everything from car sharing to data. Meanwhile, the global giant Toyota placed its own bet, but they didn't partner with Lyft. They went with the undisputed champ, Uber. The battle lines were being drawn, with the world's biggest car makers each backing a different horse in this new race. And it went even beyond just investments. Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, cut a deal to supply and operate their own self-driving cars directly on Uber's network. The old walls separating car companies and tech companies were officially crumbling down. So, where did this big bet on Lyft fit into GM's grand plan? It landed right here, as a key part of their fourth pillar, shared mobility. It wasn't some random, isolated move. It was designed to connect directly with their big pushes in electric cars, autonomous driving, and vehicle connectivity. It was all meant to create one complete vision for the future of getting around. Which, of course, brings us to the final, really provocative question. GM put its $500 million chip on the table. But with tech giants rewriting the rules and all your old rivals making their own bold moves, could a minority stake in a single company, just 9%, really be enough to change the entire trajectory of an industrial giant? That was, and it still is, the billion-dollar question on this very uncertain road ahead.